right, and here we go. Yeah, welcome to another Siebel Friday, the first Siebel Friday of 2025. It's 4 years of Siebel Fridays as of this month. So we have started Siebel Friday sessions in 2021, and it's of course 30 years of Siebel CRM. So this is 2025 is the 30-year anniversary of the first release of Siebel CRM, which we will celebrate in style. And we also have 10 years of Siebel Hub. So Siebel Hub has been founded 10 years ago and put in put on live on the web. Time flies, and we have a Siebel 25.1 just fresh out of the oven. Anybody already downloaded it?
I've got it installed
Got installed already. Wow. Okay.
on vanilla, on my vanilla environment.
On the vanilla, yeah. So it's still a few clicks away from going live with
I
25.1,
do
but
too, Alexander. I built a VM Oracle VirtualBox.
oh, nice. Yeah. So,
We
And
go
with,
live with 25.1 the end of February.
okay, cool. So you will have, what will you have in 25.1? You will have the properties panel in Siebel Web Tools. We take a look at that. There's OCI streaming support for the event pops up. There's a little bit of change in the configurator. There's a big change in the installer. Everybody who downloaded it might have noticed. And there's a big um, chapter opening in Siebel Cloud Manager, which is really cool. And for the security conscious people, there's Tomcat version is 9097. Always, I had a chat with a customer this week, so that's the number one reason for them to update Siebel is get get the Tomcat updated because the security team gives them a hard time.
Same here.
Say, okay, so that was that might have been a really clever decision. Yeah. So the web when you open Web Tools in 25.1, you will notice let me just get a they moved it around, so I just get my pointer. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So you might notice a new button in the Object Explorer with these two grids or two columns it is, and that represents the Object Explorer side by side with the brand new Properties panel. Of course, Properties panel is not entirely new in Siebel Tools. We are pretty used to it, and now it's in Web Tools. It has finally arrived in Web Tools, which is, of course, a great thing to have, and you can obviously close it again. So it's not the floating style windows of Siebel Tools. It's more fixed, but it's of course not read only. It's when you have a workspace that's editable, you can use the properties window or the panel or the pane to edit the properties of your selected record. Works as expected. At least I tried it for a few moments and seems to do the job quite fine. And any experiences already with the web tools?
It just takes up too much realty, though.
Yeah, compared to the Siebel Tools variant, it's really like yeah, you have to scroll up and down a lot. That's what you
Just
mean.
carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they'll fix that.
Nothing that can't be fixed with a little bit of style sheets, right?
Yep.
Yep, can make that smaller or
I'm
even
sure DevOps is on its way.
yeah, I thought about, in DevPops extend Siebel tools a little bit, so you could make it floating again, things like that, but it's too early, so we will just see how that works out. Okay, next feature or next tiny addition that has been noted in Bookshelf is there's a system preference for I don't know who I don't know who creates a workflow or task in task-based UI with more than 3,000 steps or connectors. That's the child elements. So that sounds really like a lot. But if you have more than these 3,000 and want to see them in the editor in Web Tools, there's now a system preference you can set to the desired value. So that is,
I'd hate to look at that workflow.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I was thinking. I actually
Oh.
didn't know about this bug, but it's kind of funny to me. I kind of laughed when I saw it. But I mean, the thing is that the steps in connector, they do add up really fast because all of the branches, like if you have, one decision step with 8 out branches and so on, you've got like
Yeah,
25 rows. They do add up a lot faster than you think.
yeah, you quickly get to let's say a 3-digit figure, but
Yeah,
that's
but again, I think 3,000
3,000
is pretty excessive. Maybe,
excessive.
I don't know that we have any out of the box like that. I wouldn't, maybe one of the email response
I,
ones, but I doubt it.
so
That-
have you guys
I'm
heard about sub processes?
yeah, no, I know. I'm kind of, I may go back and find this bug and figure out
Yeah. Okay,
what
but
customer
probably
was
was
doing this and ask them what they were doing. I'm just curious. I'm impressed though that 3,000 a workflow with that much stuff and succeeds.
well,
I mean, that's good that we can handle that, I guess. 'Cause
testament
that
to the
seems like the high end.
testament to the Siebel framework. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's an interesting one. And thanks, Brian. By the way, hi. And we also have a new feature. I'm not sure if it's entirely new, but it's a documentation enhancement, definitely, that Bookshelf now describes how to connect the event PubSub integration, which is for Kafka, to the Kafka on OCI, which is called OCI streaming. So that is just a Kafka implementation. So it's probably not a big deal, but it's now documented.
I think there were some changes for this, but not a massive amount.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, it's obviously useful if you're running an OCI.
Yeah, so good to see that these the cloud-based Kafkas are getting attention. And then in the product administration guide, there is mention of the standard renderer for the Siebel configurator combo box. That is when you use the Siebel configurator, for product configuration, you can pick your controls for the fields. And if you pick the combo box, it looks like a standard HTML boring select. And in 25.1, it looks more like the OpenUI, or it is actually rendered probably using the jQuery autocomplete. So it looks like any OpenUI dropdown and has a type ahead feature. And you can obviously also restore the old style by setting a user property in that special applet. So yeah, that's also a welcome change. And I had to blur it because it's not really public. If you download 25.1, so if you're keen on downloading it, you will maybe be on the lookout for the DISA installer, which I am. And I didn't find the DISA installer. And then I realized the installer for DISA and the marketing server and the mobile framework and SAM, Siebel Approval Manager, they're now all bundled in the same bunch of zip files, bunch of archives with the one single download. Or you can download them individually from Oracle support, but if you choose download all, you get a really big package. So that's...
Hey, Alex, did you look at the actual monthly update guide? And maybe you talked about it before I joined, or we're going to talk about it, but...
You mean the release notes?
Yeah. I wondered if you had noticed the changes in it.
There are some changes there, I noticed, but I'm not sure if... Do you want to elaborate?
Well, I'm talking about... So we've now added a section to the top of the monthly update guide. It's in expand, so you don't have to see it if you don't care. But you just mentioned the download all, for example. There's now a explanation of what's in each of the zip files.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's part of the monthly update guide. So it will tell you, if you want DISA, download this zip. If you want whatever, download this other zip. And so it makes it easier for you to pick and choose, so you're not downloading all 14 gig or whatever. If you don't need a certain section, just don't download that zip.
Yeah.
So that's explained what's in each file.
Okay, I need to check
At the
that out.
top of the update guide. So yeah, it just is
Mhm.
you know, to help assist, make sure you choose the right thing. And if you downloaded it in the first 24 hours, then you probably don't see it because someone published it, got published without something,
Okay,
without
okay.
all the contents. So yeah,
All right.
it unfortunately that happened.
Okay.
But it was quickly replaced with the correct one. But yeah, it was just confusion, or you know.
Okay. Yeah, so
If you
that's
want,
great. Yeah.
if you want to look real quick, I can show it if you want, or not. Up to you.
Yeah, sure. If you want to share your screen, can you?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I just need to.
I think you're allowed to do. Yeah.
I can share, but wait a minute.
Yeah. Now.
What happened? Oh, there we go.
I click the button, and there you go.
All right, good. You can see this now.
Oh,
All
nice.
right. So yeah, so right at the top, required downloads explains that it's a series of zips. You guys all know that stuff. Describes the naming, describes which platform, all that stuff. So this stuff's the same all the time. And then if you look under Windows Archives, it'll tell you what's in each zip number. So zip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then separately all the non-Windows, so Linux, Unix stuff.
Great.
Is listed here, so you can see what you want to download without actually.
That's also in. Sorry, Brian. That's also in the first zip file. When you download this first zip, you also get a text file with similar.
Right. No, I know, but I don't. Our perception is people don't really realize that.
Yeah.
So and then so yeah, so that's why we added it here. Just to try to be helpful.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
And
if you don't see this, then just go re-download it, because like I said, for about 24 hours it was wrong.
Okay. And is that okay?
It was missing that and other things. Yeah.
Okay. And is it okay to keep that in the recording, or?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, if anyone else is having the same problem, now they'll know they have to go re-download it.
Okay. So yeah,
it's not a secret.
Right. That's good to know, and great to see the consolidation here. And I think what I personally think is a new chapter in Siebel installation has been opened with the standalone installer, if I may call it, for Siebel Cloud Manager. So that means Siebel Cloud Manager was formerly available on OCI exclusively on the marketplace. So you can only deploy it on OCI on your tenancy, which limits your ability to deploy on any platform. And so now Oracle ships a separate installer. It's on the same place where you find the Siebel installers. So you have the containers, you have the MDE, and now you have the Cloud Manager. And it's too early really to tell a lot about that. Dipped my feet a little bit into the water. So as I understand it, you can use that installer to install Siebel Cloud Manager on any platform, be it on a Linux VM, on premises, or be it on any cloud. But you have to bring your own resources, so it cannot create, for example, a Kubernetes cluster like the OCI version does. So you have to, for example, provision OpenShift or have an OpenShift deployment and then point to that and have the SCM you installed then install or deploy Siebel CRM on that OpenShift cluster. Yeah, did I get that right?
Yeah, no, you did. It's just you have to, it's only gonna be able to install if you have some sort of Kubernetes already set up, because you have to specify, you know, which cluster you want to use. I think it's cluster.
Yes.
So yeah, but that's really it in terms of prereqs. But it does allow you to use that container-based cloud manager with Kubernetes anywhere. I mean, you could, in theory, I think, use it on Azure. You know, I don't know why not.
It's literally a container that runs on a Linux, on any Linux or literally on any container platform, so you can run it anywhere and then use it to deploy Siebel anywhere, right?
That sounds. Question is there a charge for the SCM, or is that part of?
Nope.
The product?
It's part of base. It's part of base.
Okay.
I don't think we have added a new SKU in quite a while. For reference, I think that's going to change in the future. We may start adding new things as we add certain capabilities that we feel are above and beyond the basics that a system just has to have. We may introduce some new SKUs. I don't know where they'll be, but the discussion's out there. But so far, we have not released a new SKU that I am aware of, and I think I would be in a couple of years, really. I mean, as many of you know, for a while, Oracle was being a little reluctant to sell Siebel, whereas now it's the opposite, and we're very actively selling it. So, I'm saying that the licensing may get a review, I guess I'd say.
Okay, but yeah, let's say Siebel 25 off with a bang, and you have another option how to deploy Siebel in the modern day containerized way with all the benefits of Cloud Manager. So you can use lift and shift, you can use the observability, you have the GitOps management style.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow. I'm going to try it, and we have on the Siebel Hub, we have a Cloud Manager mini course, which now soon will hopefully gain a new chapter. So adding that to our training portfolio there. Right.
And and if you run into issues or whatever, I can hook you up with Kumaresh and we can try to figure it out.
Okay.
Because I'm sure you'll think of more creative ways to use it than we will. Just history says. So
I'm spending quality time with OpenShift right now.
Exactly. So right. So anyway, if need be, we can go back, and I'm happy to connect you as always.
Sure.
One more real silly question. I'm looking at the beautiful new HTML update thing, and I got a question for all those modules in there. Are they part of Base, like Siebel Mobile, Outlook, email marketing server, or approval manager? Are those all part of Base?
Sorry, I don't know where you're looking, so I don't know.
I'm looking in the Windows archive files.
The list and the release notes that.
Yeah, release.
Yeah.
Oh, the ones that are listed there. Well, I mean, email marketing server has always been a different license.
Okay.
But DISA is part of the base, SAM's part of the base, unless you see it as a separate line item, like email marketing server. Angelos just posted.
Angelos, posted.
So it's really, when you install the Siebel binaries, you get everything, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're licensed for everything.
Right,
you're just allowed to go use the license key manager to say, I've licensed X, Y, and Z. So what you see in that release zip structure is tangential to what you're licensed for. There's no relationship.
Okay.
It's just that's just convenient ways for us to package things. But yeah, if I look at those zips, it looks like email marketing server is the only.
Mobile is the other one I was looking at.
Mobile's Siebel Mobile. Actually, that might be the most recent SKU we've added, and that was several years ago. Siebel Mobile, I believe, is part of the product, and Siebel Mobile disconnected. Angelos just wrote that. Disconnected does require a separate license if you want to work offline with Siebel Mobile. But Siebel Mobile itself is part of the product, and then I said disconnected is where you need a license.
Okay, so
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah.
But talk to your sales guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say. That's basically a discussion for Oracle sales to have with the customers, right? And yeah. So you might remember, coming back to the Cloud Manager, you might remember here on Siebel Friday we hosted Definex from Turkey last year, who made a big and substantial and very honorable effort to put Siebel on OpenShift, but without the Cloud Manager, of course, because there was none, and it took them very long to figure out the details how to deploy Siebel on OpenShift. And so now customers who either are on their way to container-based deployment or are struggling with the concepts, then again, that separate installer for Cloud Manager is something exciting to have. Yeah. So this is
the installers. Sorry, real quick. The installers themselves may be merged because the installer is really just a framework. So in that sense, we may consolidate them into a single download package. In the future, we may not. But
you mean the regular Siebel, the MDE and others like these?
The other one's MDE as well. They're the same basic installers. It's the payload that's different.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, we may put all the payload in one bigger one, but again, you only need to download the zips that you want. Just because it doesn't really make sense for us to have to worry about maintaining two installers.
So the cloud, basically the containers and Cloud Manager will also be part of the big one.
Probably, yeah. It just be as, you know, that way it's all in one place. It's, you know, we don't have one coming out one day and one coming out 3 days later and, you know, or any of that stuff. It's just like housekeeping, right? It's just simpler.
Makes sense.
You know, you only have to go to one place.
Okay. And yeah, since it's Siebel 25 and we have that little game every now and then to show off the Siebel tools versus web tools, and looking good for web tools, right? There's a lot of green on the web tool side, with just the object wizards really missing a few, well, half of them.
Yeah.
That's an observation,
we're adding
right?
those as you can see, we've added them periodically throughout the.
Yeah, they're coming. I'm quite sure. It's just keeping tabs on that, and it's fun to watch Siebel web tools really get up. There are the other Siebel tools features which should not be forgotten. Let's put it that way, which is comparison, generating schema, visualizing stuff, deploy as web service, and others.
Yeah.
So
curious, looking at your thing, I'd like your opinion from the group. How many people actually use integrated help in tools or web tools? Speak up if you use it.
So I do.
You actually do use the help?
I
use
press
the
F1.
content stuff, yeah, all the time.
Huh. Okay, interesting. Because I mean, you know, I don't think I've ever hit it. Like I have a bookshelf that explains things for me. I was just curious if people use it. And then the other one is entity relationship diagrams. How much do people use those?
Okay.
I'm just curious.
No, don't use it.
Yep. I use it all the time.
I do. Okay. Well, we need to prioritize is why I ask, right? You know, we need to figure out what to do first.
Object comparison.
Okay.
That's not in web tools. Okay. No. Well, I'll check that. That's weird. Okay. I was just curious because we need to prioritize this stuff, and this group is, you know, the right sort of people to help us with that. So sorry to interrupt, but that's what.
That and search repository are the two key ones I use.
Okay. And then I think what's actually missing here is schema editor.
That's edit and apply.
Oh, there. Okay.
Table definitions.
Okay. So not just table, but yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking for
so
like
the schema. Yeah.
the
Working
word
with
schema.
the schema. That's definitely.
I don't know how you're going to do that in workspaces.
Well, they're not workspace yet. So
it's just editing.
I mean, it works in tools already. It'll work the same way. It'll just be in web.
We are working on
right now. You can't even edit them.
Yeah, we are definitely working on some of these listed here. I just can't tell you which ones and when.
Yeah. Okay. So just leaving it here. Just leaving it here for inspiration. So with something to do. And also workspace support. You mentioned it. There's the, let's say, as of to date, the schema related object types and anything, and the manifest inside the repository, but not workspace managed.
Right.
So that's just the state of the workspace or the workspace support. And then the LOVs is the only administrative data type that is workspace managed.
if anyone feels strongly about the lack of these, and you haven't done so in the last 6 months or so, please let Carrie know. Like if you're a partner or a customer and this is causing you a problem, which I know for many of you it is, please send an email to Carrie, because right now this, just to be honest, is on hold because there's a perception amongst certain folks within our org that everyone has lived with it so far, so you don't really need it. And I completely disagree with that, as does Carrie. But in order to fix that, we need customers and partners to complain, and say, yes, this still is a problem.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to remain on hold. Who knows how long? So, I'm asking for help. Help me, help you.
Okay, you heard Brian. Thank you for being so open and candid here.
I can't speak for others, but I know for our organization, we've built our own pipelines. So that's why we're not shouting for it, because we already have our own workaround.
Right. We figured that because many people complained over the years, and they just got tired of it and stopped complaining. So our picture to management of who wants this is like 5 or 6 people, 5 or 6 customers. And they look at that and go, well, that's not really that big of an ask, is it? And they're not acknowledging the hundreds of people who asked over the years and finally just threw up their hands and said, let's figure it out ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. If I could name something, then I think a pain point is the manifest, OpenUI manifest. Yes. As it gets overwritten every migration, things like that. So
it's interesting. Carrie and I were just on a call talking about that.
There was
recently, and there's a bug out there on it.
The tiny MCE being deactivated and things like that.
My debugger ports get overridden every time.
The debug server.
Yeah, debug server ports get overridden every time.
During updates, if you have a custom port in that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a workspace issue, though.
No, it's just
it's installation.
Yeah, it's not workspace related. Yeah. Okay, so just leaving that here, and thank you again, Brian. That's very, very helpful. And so, well, leaves us with what's the oldest Siebel version you can get to Siebel 25? So bookshelf upgrade guide is still at 7.5.3, which is, well, impressive. And we have the same, I have done this so many times, so it's the same upgrade path. I'm not trying to preach to the crowd here. And of course, there's the continuous release model has not changed, because some people might be under the impression, oh, it's Siebel 25, it's different now, and we have to upgrade instead of update, and they still confuse that. So if you're in doubt, you know where to look.
Does anyone use that new tool, the upgrade tool?
Upgrade Factory, you mean?
Yeah.
That's related to customers upgrading from IP16 and earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if anyone's ever used it yet.
Do you have any specific questions about it?
No, I'm just curious if anybody's ever used it, because we're already at 25.1, so we're not doing it.
It doesn't apply to you anyway, then.
No, just curiosity.
Yeah.
I think that years ago. For anyone who's not currently on 17 plus, the Upgrade Factory 2.0, if you leverage what's in there for your upgrade, which by the way, it adds support for text and production upgrades. It's no longer limited to development, which is important. But it optimizes the upgrade in terms of all the queries that we use to move data around, particularly from pre-16. We did a massive change to the calendar in IP16, and it requires it requires a change to the schema for the action object and all its children. And we had customers that were running, 80-hour upgrades in production, and using the optimized code, they brought it down to 8 hours. Like they had terabytes of data in their activity, a table. And and literally cut it to 10% of what it was by using the optimized queries that we included. So
That's cool.
big benefit there, like huge benefit for production upgrades in terms of, reducing downtime and so forth. And we think it can be optimized further, but that has to be done locally because we don't know where the customer's data is. We do a best guess up front, but anyway, so it could be even better if you then further tuned it. But that's without even any tuning. It's a built-in tuning we've already done. So hopefully people will find it useful. For those of you who are not already on 17 or at least 16, you'll get much faster production upgrades, much faster.
Okay, so definitely it's very good to hear that the upgrade process as a whole is constantly improved as well, along with the rest of the product. So not forgetting about these customers who are still on IP16 or even earlier. And every now and
Alex,
then you hear about non-open UI high interactivity.
Maybe for 25 too, or whenever, in one of these calls, Alex, maybe you could add a topic for me to talk about where we're going with upgrade, because there's still a lot more we want to do.
Sure.
And I would love feedback from this group. So I would, be happy to, if I can have a slot of 15 minutes or so to talk to the group and get feedback on what we're planning.
Always, Brian.
Lovely.
Siebel Friday is open for everything. And especially for you guys.
Thanks. But if you could slate that on,
I should take a note.
And I will be giving, and also sometime in February, I will be giving a Cloud Customer Connect or whatever they're calling it this week, presentation on what we have done with upgrades so far. But that won't be talking about the future because we're limited by all the rev rec rules. Whereas with this group, as a smaller group, I'm sure most of you are probably already part of a beta and certainly probably signed NDAs by now due to other events, cabs, and so on. So, I feel more comfortable sharing it with this more focused group about the future. So hopefully I'll have the other one done. People could watch that if they want, and then see what we've already done. And then the smaller group here, we can have a conversation about where I'm planning to go and get validation or correction on where I'm planning to go.
So,
okay.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I made a note, so I'll send you a separate email to discuss. But you definitely
your upgrade, Brian. The software upgrade has been improved a lot. I do a lot of upgrades, non-stop, real ones. And in my observation is that, I used to get between 30 to 20% of objects that I had to touch and fix. Right now is between 5 and 10 or 12, which is a big improvement. It would be nice that be less than 5%, but your software to upgrade the Siebel application is real good. Good job, brother.
Thanks. We're going to also be working on improving repository upgrade, and I'll review that with you next week or next month as well.
Oh yes.
I thought you'd like that.
Will you be able to help me fix my issues with CTMS?
That I can't change because that's functionality. I have no control. You got to call Chris about that.
I'm hoping to exclude it from because I can't upgrade the repository because of the CTMS piece in there.
Yeah, no, I know, but we should sit down, maybe you, me, and Chris, and talk about that and see if there's a way we can figure that out. Because I understand where you're coming from.
Because I'm still in a 17 repository.
Right. Yeah, and we definitely want to get you off that because you can't take any new features at this point.
Nope.
Yeah, no Redwood for you.
Okay. So when we talk about repositories, I've just got one point, if you don't mind, Alex, if I can just ask.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of a long-standing issue with repositories, really, and it's the long data type. And we're an Oracle backend, just for info. And obviously that got deprecated many, many years ago. And I know there's some backwards compatibility, but trying to do stuff with long data types, and I'm talking about vanilla columns rather than custom ones, is very difficult and painful.
No, understood. I completely understand. I have right now some of my engineers looking at the possibility of converting all of them to clouds. And we'd like to do it, as part of either an upgrade, which I thought was already working, but apparently is not, or now, through post-install DB setup, because and you raise a good point. The concern I have is that going to break anything for someone? If we just behind the scenes change them all to clouds, and do a database, and sync the database to match, to show them as clouds. Okay, and with the assumption, because we won't do it until we have this in place, with the assumption that we've added online clauses to our data schema changes, which means you can do it online without messing up the, without doing a table lock, or making your indexes go crazy. Assuming that works, assuming that's in place, or that it's in place, I should say, then if we were to just change things from long to clouds, is that going to hurt someone's data warehousing, ETL process? Is there a downside to us doing in an automated way? Or should we make it an optional script and say, hey, if you want to get rid of all your longs, then run this? Which do you think would be better, optional? Or, over time we need to get everybody off of longs, but should we allow people to choose the timing, or just include it in a monthly?
It's a good question. I suppose if you're trying to have a one size fits all for everybody, then probably optional, I imagine, to say, choose to upgrade to club or don't choose. It'd be awesome if we had that opportunity, though. It would certainly unlock a lot of issues.
Okay. I'll look at it that way, and we can just include it as a little mini feature at some point, that will come either with or after the other thing I'm talking about, which is the ability to change schema in an online mode without having to worry about table locks and so on. So that's also in the works.
Wow. Okay.
And so we're and I've said before, I think I'll say again, to me, anything that forces downtime during a binary upgrade or binary update, or a migration, we will work to eliminate. Okay, so like if there's something that prevents zero downtime, and it's at all within our ability to control, because we can't control if your server goes down or your network goes down, but anything in the Siebel realm, it'll get filed as a bug, not an enhancement. Or if someone files it as an enhancement, I'll change it to a bug. So anything along those lines, please report it, because we want to fix it. We don't want you to have downtime. Now, an upgrade, you have to have downtime. No way to avoid. And if you do a full migration, you're going to have downtime, but you don't need to do a full migration other than once ever. So anyway, just throwing all that out there for thought.
Okay, great.
James says, Santiago, I have a question. You mentioned that you cannot upgrade CTMS. We just did an upgrade at PPD from 8115 to 22.9 CTMS.
I think you're talking to Nick.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, Nick, I'm sorry.
It was Nick with you. No, the issue, Santiago, is they have highly customized CTMS because they wanted features that CTMS didn't have yet, and highly customized. And so if they run repository upgrade, it's the new things that have been added to CTMS are going to corrupt all the work. That's the issue. So it's
the repository.
It's about the
upgrade.
functionality and the repository.
Big upgrade,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
So
just repository.
The big example is like unblinded. We've been doing unblinded since 2009, and the CTMS update just blows that all away.
Yeah, because they added their own blinding feature, and it's done in a in a different way, and it'll just mess up theirs. So that's the reason why Nick is stuck, Duke is stuck. But anyway, we are working on that, Nick. But again, you and I can have a conversation with Chris, you and Chris, or Chaitanya, or someone can sit down and have that conversation and try to figure out how we can get you out of that situation.
I have faith.
Okay, that's good. All right, so very interesting conversations here, and thank you again, everybody, for joining the Siebel Fridays. I have another little, let's say, pet peeve, which is keeping tabs on historical things, and it's 30 years of Siebel. People count that differently, I know, but for me, it's like the first software release in 1995 was 30 years ago or almost. So this year marks the 30th anniversary. And you might or might not know that on the Siebel Hub, we have a little page under knowledge, books and media. And there's the Siebel CRM timeline, which hopefully works when I click it. And yeah, that's a little gadget. So it goes back to way beyond 95. It goes back to 1988. And I've also produced a video on it, so you can watch the whole speech. Going through that timeline might be fun, might be a bit of a flashback for some of you guys. So very young Tom
Love
Siebel
the picture
here.
of Tom. Yeah,
Very young Tom Siebel. And back then, at Oracle, I still find that most amusing that all the major suites of software like Siebel or PeopleSoft, for example, came from people who left Oracle for whatever reasons. Took maybe some of the talent with them, as it happens, and then did their own thing until it was big enough for Oracle to reacquire. So, and that is the Oasis project at Oracle was the birth hour of the modern day CRM we know, and the modern day sales, enterprise sales management. So yeah, take a moment when you have time to visit that timeline and go through it. It goes from 1988 down. Let's see, did I update it? Oh yeah. So Siebel CRM 2025 major milestone is already added to the timeline. So okay, so that is a little bit of fun you can have with products like Siebel, going back 3 decades, and think about what has been accomplished and what will be accomplished in the next 30 years, right? So here's to the next 30 years. Yeah, if you have any personal story to you want to share with.
Yeah, okay. So actually not a personal story, but you mentioned about one feature. This is Himanshu, and you
Himanshu.
mentioned that, you mentioned one feature for the product configurator. And you also mentioned about a workflow with 3,000 steps. So, I think I just want to show that feature in action. Generally, I prefer demos. So, that's what I thought. We didn't have any demo today, so I will just do that one for you people. And
okay.
I think, so if that's okay, I'll just show you quickly. And hope that helps.
Do you have a workflow with 3,000 steps?
No, not a workflow, but I think I have something else. So let me share my screen here.
There you
go. This is a product configurator administration screen, as you can see, and this is a pretty complex product model that you can see. And over here we have a lot of constraints, and still means reasonable. And then there is user interface also in here. So this user interface has certain, means the way you can configure tabs. So this is the tab layout one. So actually, if I go back here, and this is a theme with tab product theme. And in here, there are 2 tabs, features and discounts and internet speeds. And then in this internet speeds, there are different sections. And in this section, these 2 sections are configured with checkbox with price open UI. Okay. So this is where that enhancement kicks in, the one that you mentioned earlier. And if I go in here and get to the validate one, so you can see that this is the customer's model. And if you put it as a radio button, then you would have to scroll quite a lot here. Now, this list was also like that. And now instead of that one, let's say I want to search for fiber. So now you can type it in and the list is filtered with the Fiper thing. And then if you want to say 100, so the list is filtered. So very easily you can select it, small enhancement, but I think it reduces the overall time to to complete a call, So from that perspective, very useful, and new agents can find things easily in here. So let's see if you want to find something 24 months, then we'll get those filtered out the list.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks for the demo. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So, and this one, I'm just showing it in product administration. It will work in quotes and orders and all different areas. So
yes. Good old Siebel configurator.
Good old Siebel configurator. Yes.
So the product
And
configuration, that requires the latest repository, right?
Actually, this is a JavaScript change. So as long as you have a repository, I don't think that there is much in there.
Okay.
I think that special applet gets changed. The CFG thing applet.
Yeah,
behind
the
the
JavaScript.
control.
Yeah. So those files, as long as you have the latest files, then it will work.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Himanshu. That was super helpful. Yeah. I also might have one more thing.
Sure.
So that means we have a few more minutes, right? Still, that's quite a packed Siebel Friday, is it? So let me go to how do I do that? Just okay. Yeah. So here I have a Siebel vanilla-ish playground. And you can see one aspect of Siebel is form applets. And this is a vanilla form applet. I'm just using it as an example. And it might not look as good as it can look, right? So it's can need a little bit of touch up. And it's substantially big. It's a big opportunity form applet. So I had a customer, they struggled with the form layout editor in WebTools. There are several issues preventing them from succeeding in realigning those things. And they eventually gave up. And so I was asked to provide them with an alternative. And the alternative that I came up with is to use plain CSS style sheets, because you're in a browser, and we had that discussion very often on Siebel Fridays or on Siebel Hub videos. With anything you can do in the browser, you can help Siebel become better. So I will apply a change to my style sheet, and don't worry about that. It looks a little bit weird, but I can do selectors with the applet names, so which is also a change I did. And I saved that change. So I just made a typo deliberately. And I saved that change. I will reload the view. And as you can see, it's much better looking immediately. Would you agree? All aligned nicely.
Yeah, very
Excellent,
consistent.
Alexander.
Yeah. So, and that's without any interference with the repository. So you just take what comes from the repository. And just to go back, during developing this, I had to understand, well, again, because I understood it once and then I had to go back in again, how a form applet really works, how it's rendered. And I built a little tool to, just highlight the table definitions of that form applet. So it's an HTML table, which is, let's say, an outdated or old-fashioned way to render things on the screen in a grid. And that table we cannot get away with. We cannot get rid of. Like, it's generated by the Siebel Web Engine based on information from the repository. And visualizing that table, the different table elements, helps us understand the coordinate principle in the form applets. That, for example, here we have that last name, and it starts the item identifier, as you can see in the tooltip that's displayed is 5010. So it starts in the 5th row and in the 10th column. So here you see the column 10 and row 5. And the top left corner is in that starting point. So that's how the coordinates, how these item identifiers work. So I had to refresh my memory on that. There's also a column span, which defines the width in terms of how many columns it spans. So it goes to, well, in that case, 13 columns wide. So it goes to 23, right? 10 plus 13. So it stops here. So this helped me understand the layout issues of the applet. And you can apply that to any applet. But it also did not change the layout, as you can see. It's just showing the table definition really clearly. And to change the layout, I used a trick. And the trick is, let me just zoom in, for this very applet, to apply the key here is in using the grid, CSS grid for any table row. So basically you find the display table of the form applet, and TR is any table row. I know that might be a little bit a lot of CSS for non-CSS people or non-OpenUI people, but display grid means apply grid layout. So if you look up grid layout on CSS, there are tons of tutorials. And the grid layout means you can, for each row, you can apply a different template. And I've put these templates here for each row. So there's the first row, the second row, the third row. And the template is basically for each cell in the table, you define the width. So I use variables here to make it easier. 0 means nothing. And that means I'm looking at the layout in a grid visually, that I just arrange the CSS so that it matches up a little bit with that. So you basically have to figure out the correct pixel values, which is a little bit of effort, and then carefully arrange them so that finally, when I reload this again, the grid applies to each table row so that everything ends up aligned. So that's the basic principle. So I just wanted to show you that because it's something I experimented on for a while, and then I had a real customer success story in aligning a big form applet that really gave them headaches with just CSS and not touching the repository. Okay, so that's another reason.
Just question. So I'm not a CSS expert. So so is this CSS you have defined just for this particular applet and view, or how you have means you have is that for this applet?
It's
okay.
just for that particular applet, because every applet is different, right? So you have
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just for this particular applet. So I have some additional JavaScript that tags the elements in the DOM, so I can really select only that applet. Yeah, you might have noticed the selector is referring to a custom property. That is tagged with a JavaScript, but makes it possible to find an individual style for each and every applet, or even individual controls. Yeah. So yeah, that's something I wanted to show you. And if you're interested in that, we can have another Siebel Friday just on styling Siebel.
I don't know if you mentioned before, Alex, but Aaron, he's our UX developer. He's working on something which will come probably later this year, which will, well, this is idea anyway. It will take the applets on the view, hide them all, and then use Vue JavaScript to actually render a kind of new set of modern looking applets.
Use Vue.js.
Use Vue.js, to basically render a new set of applets, and then under the hood, it'll kind of integrate with the old ones in terms of OpenUI commands, etc.
Yeah, or the Nexus bridge that was released a while ago from IdeaPort.
Yeah, this would be something custom, so it's maybe on the
Mhm.
similar lines, but not
Yeah.
using Nexus Bridge.
Of course, let's say hiding the original applet and building a new UX using a modern framework on top and showing that instead, but you still have to, let's say, propagate any control change, any click down to the real applet.
That's right, yeah.
It's an there are many projects who have done this successfully. So there's even an Oracle, there's even, well, a new product of Oracle using that technique to modernize the Siebel UX. So yeah, that's a lot of JavaScript, a lot of Vue.js or React or Angular. You have to write and know how to do it. And this approach is a lightweight approach without much JavaScript. It's just optimizing the CSS, optimizing the.
Well, you'd be surprised this Vue.js is actually much lighter than you think. We've already built some dedicated views purely using Vue, and we put it demoed before using Vue.js and REST calls, which is a more lightweight performant
you
way.
demonstrated that.
But we can't do that for every view. So the idea behind this is that it's a quicker way to kind of modernize the thousands of views we've already got. You know?
Right. So yeah, as we talk about 30 years of Siebel, definitely. In those 30 years, the UX has changed a lot, and then it has not. So it's still forms and lists, and people have to organize the data in forms and lists, or the odd chart, and that is similar requirements, but with different UX requirements changing over the years. And Siebel has done quite well in actually keeping up with that. Of course, we have Redwood theme, which has started last year, and we have the Redwood design system from Oracle, which is definitely still there, still an option. Or you go, as you say, with Vue.js or other modern frameworks. I used Shoelace for a while. Shoelace is now Web Awesome. I think they constantly renaming things.
Yeah, I think one of the risks is that we're taking on is that front end frameworks change so fast, don't they? You know, it's here one day, gone the next.
Yes, and jQuery is now frowned upon, or even not really known among the web developers anymore, but still used for, let's say, 500 million websites or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, but you can always evolve and always try new things, and that's good to hear. So looking forward if you can maybe do a demo later this year. So
yeah, we'll give you a shout.
Always looking out for UX demos. All right. Okay, so yeah, with that, thank you very much for joining today, and big thank you to Brian and Kerry and Angelos, Himanshu from Oracle, everybody who joined from Oracle for the insight that we had, and looking forward to next Siebel Friday.
We always have to thank you, Alex. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Angelos. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Good weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.